going on, guys? Ahmed here, back with another video. Here today to give you all another new form of content. You got a new form of content yesterday, or whenever that video comes out, of my reaction. But this is another new form of content actually suggested to me by a friend of mine to do artist reviews. Talk about different upcoming and maybe current New York artists who are really popping off and really doing their thing. At first, I'm probably going to keep it to newer artists. Eventually, I might do some documentary series type stuff on older New York artists, but I feel like that's kind of already out there, you know what I mean? But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, to start off, I wanted to do an artist review on Critch. Critch is a member of, I believe it's Rich Forever, Rich the Kid's label, and he's been a decently popular New York artist for the past 4 years. He had that single "Speak Up" that went pretty viral, and generally Hood's favorite is a pretty beloved album by New York fans. And a friend of mine wanted me to do this review just to sort of get his name back into the mix, and he wanted to know my opinion, so let's talk about it. Let me know any artists from New York who you want me to talk about next. Yeah, just let me know. Anyway, so the way I've decided to do this was going to be 4 simple categories. It's going to be their discography, their journey, discography, strengths, weaknesses, and then my favorite songs. So yeah, let's get into it. From a discography perspective, I ain't gonna lie, I mostly enjoy Critch. It's interesting because I think Critch started in a good place with Hood Favorite. I really enjoyed a lot of the songs off of that album. Cool bars, great flows, some solid choruses, definitely some misses here and there for me as well. But overall, it was a decent album. I saw him at this point as an artist, sort of like a artist with a lot of potential to really maximize an incredible sound and rapping style. Also, I should be noted that generally speaking, the way that I see Critch is he's just sort of a pretty good rapper with a solid flow. Lyrically, he reminds me a lot of A$AP Rocky and maybe some A Boogie with the fashion talk and the flexing and the sort of interlacing of hood music and just those kind of different subject matters that we hear a lot through rap. But he delivers it in an interesting and enjoyable way, so I can't be mad at it. Hood's Favorite was solid album. I didn't really like the singing portion, and that will kind of come up in my weaknesses section. But yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of the when he would use auto-tune. It just kind of didn't work, and he wasn't, it felt like a discount of a lot of other more prominent artists, most notably, in my opinion, Quavo. So yeah, wasn't a big fan of that, but most of his rapping tracks were pretty solid. I really enjoyed it. Then you have, I believe it's Signed for Love, and this was a bit of a more vulnerable album, with him getting into maybe a bit more of his struggles, both when he was rich, now that he's rich, and when he was poor. A little bit more singing on this album, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but it seemed like he had improved on his singing a little bit, so it was a little bit more manageable. I will say, though, up to this point, while I kind of maybe see that there was an intention to be a bit more vulnerable on this album, the intention kind of fell flat in the execution phase. I feel like a lot of it wasn't really that well expressed, and he still leaned a lot on his old subject matter. So at this point in the discography listen, I was, still enjoying the project, still pretty happy with what was going on, but felt like there should be I was hoping for a bit of an artistic shift. And like I said, I feel like Signed for Love was an attempt of that, but wasn't really that well executed. Also, I think I forgot to mention, like I said, he is on Rich Forever, and so he does have a label album similar to a Revenge of the Dreamers or Slime Language. Yeah, Slime Language series. He had kind of his own little label album with Rich the Kid and Famous Dex and 38 Babies and more. It was all right. I only listened to the songs with Jay Critch on them, and it's pretty obvious, that Jay Critch is really the most talented person in that group. No offense to Famous Dex, who has some songs. Um, all offense to Rich the Kid, who is definitely mid as hell. Um, the songs where he had the choruses were the strongest tracks, and the songs where he had the verse, he normally had the best verse, right? So that was, like I said, his parts were pretty solid, and I think by comparison to the other people on the songs, he was pretty solid. And so then we get to Critch Tape, which is his 2021 release. And honestly, I was a bit disappointed overall. The project itself wasn't bad per se. It was a bit longer with a few more misses. So it's definitely his worst project out of the three, just from like a sort of objective standpoint, from a number standpoint. But I think what most disappointed me is I believe that Hood Favorite came out in 2018, and so we're now 3 years removed from Hood Favorite, and we still haven't seen that much artistic evolution. And I feel like for you to stay on top, whether that be commercially or just critically, you have to either improve or, change your sound. And I feel like none of that really happened. And while I do feel like this sort of can plague a lot of different artists, I feel it's worse with Central C because it feels like he didn't even really try anything new, if that makes sense. Like, say what you will about, DaBaby, but each album's sound has different production at the very least. Even if, he approaches each song the same way, there with a bit more consciousness album to album to album, he still has different production. And I just didn't really get that from the larger Critch tapes. Like I said, still great rapping, great flows, and very enjoyable choruses. Definitely one of the brighter spots of his albums. I love to see rap choruses, those Pusha T's, those Fabio Foreigns, people who just have really good rapping choruses. And he definitely has those. I love the anime bars, of course, throughout his whole discography. But I think that he could have definitely been aided by some switch up or some artistic evolution. Maybe what happened was that, people, of course, in New York, we get very excited over potential. And so maybe what could have happened was just that Hood Favorite, did such numbers and had such an impact that he maybe settled in his sound and didn't really evolve much or didn't feel he had to, improve much from where he started. I don't know all the reasons, of course. I'm not in Jay Critch's corner, but definitely felt that was, for me, that was kind of the album process. Was each album was about the same in quality, but as you kind of get through, it becomes the same album 2, 3, 4 times in a row. And so it kind of just gets worse due to lack of evolution. And that was kind of most of his weaknesses section. But just to, I guess, to finish off the weaknesses section, his vocals were also pretty weak, and especially with Critch Tape, but what is also true with some of the other albums, they were a bit too long, and you can tell that, like, he really, doesn't have, because he doesn't have that much versatility, there are a lot of song ideas that end up repeating themselves. And eventually, artistically, I feel like he kind of grows thin and his quality choruses eventually run out. I definitely felt this on Hood's Favorite, where the first half of the record, and I don't know when songs are recorded, so I'm kind of just assuming that he records them, in order, which is probably not true. But I definitely felt like on Hood's Favorite, there was definitely sort of a declining in the latter half of the record. And that's simply because for the artist that he was and at the time that he came out, he probably only needed a 10-song album, but came out with, I believe, a 12 or 14-song album, you know, because that, is sort of the standard. But I definitely feel like also his albums being as long as they were exposed some of his artistic limitations in ways that weren't even really necessary, if that makes sense. Uh, and so, yeah, overall, those I would say are his weaknesses. Going into some of his strengths, though, I mentioned this earlier, but I feel like lyrically he's actually, pretty strong. He's not exactly a top dollar lyricist, but he can definitely get by and do his thing. I feel like the way he delivers his bars is pretty interesting. Definitely his rapping voice. He's got a very, very good rapping voice that is really enjoyable to hear. And his guy's cadence, man. This guy's cadences and tempos are different. That's one thing that I will say that like throughout each album, he kind of brings the same 3 or 4 flows to each album, but at least it's still 3 or 4 flows, right? That he brings to each album. And those flows were really, really solid. And especially during those verses, he really, really did his thing. One thing I also want to point out is that I feel that he's able to have, whenever he's on a song with other people, he is still able to have a lot of presence and maintain his stake on a song, whether that be on the Rich Forever albums or on some of his albums where he had certain features, such as even Fabulous, which was definitely a surprise feature, but glad to see it. He still held his ground and was able to have enough presence on the song to remain sort of relevant and interesting throughout. And I never forgot about Jay Critch's verses at any point. And so, yeah, definitely those were definitely to me some of his strengths. All right, and so for this segment, I will officially get into my top 10 personal favorite Jay Critch song. Let's get into it. Number 10. Okay, look, to be honest, anything over a drum beat is probably going to sound good to me. Does that make me a gremlin? Yes. But acknowledgement is the first path to healing. This was my favorite deep song, a decent attempt at a more introspective track. So fuck with it. Look, man, this was the best auto-tune crooning that you're going to find from this man. Pretty solid, sounds like his other stuff, but the rapping is at least good. I just want to know, who is he referring to that copied his swag? Bro, if like party energy could be condensed into one song, oh my god. See, I want to send this song to all them niggas who thought I was mid, just to let them know what's really going on. Like every time I make some money, I want to send this on to these niggas, because I'm shitting on niggas. That's really how it is. See, and this is the problem. Y'all inspired by Jay-Z to go start a business. This is what I'm inspired by to make a business. Let's talk about it. This beat is addicting. Bro, this is like a song that just like gets progressively better and better. Like I feel like every time I listen to it, it has a stronger and stronger stranglehold on my soul. You feel me? Like the flows is going crazy. The beat is there. She feel like I'm beating my ego. Like the chorus is bumping. Everything about this song goes. I knew from the moment I heard it, bro. This goes, bro. So yeah, those are my top 10 favorite songs. Playlist will be down in the description. Let me know what y'all think. And let me know what y'all think of this content form in general. I really enjoyed, making this kind of content.